And here we are. Okay, we're back. Devin and I are here for modern coverage at the Energy Series 10K. Thanks for being with us. Sorry that was a little bit of a lengthy wait, but sometimes these players don't finish their matches very quickly. Not going to name any culprit, any archetype that might be four color stalling things out the whole round every single time. But what are you going to do, Devin? What are you going to do?
Sound like you have something in your throat there. I don't know if that was on purpose or I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's just there's modern. I think when we cut the break, the round was over and there was 14 matches left. So yeah.
jerks, all of them. So I don't know. So if these four color decks, what I feel like obviously having played a lot of Tron myself, I feel like the focused, assault on their mana base with the Karn pairing, that at least gives you a reasonable shot. Like what else if someone's trying to beat four color and they don't care about the rest of the field, like what is a good approach? I mean, it's tough because they have pretty good coverage of what you can throw at them.
I think people's general consensus is that four color the best archetypes that are good against four color are kind of the linear combo decks.
Mm-hmm.
So you think like Goblin Charbelcher, Oops All Spells, um, things of that nature. And the reason for that is because they don't really care about a lot of what the four color deck is doing, like Solitude, Fury, Red and Six. Like these, they just don't really care about those cards.
Mm-hmm.
The issue becomes is a lot of these four color decks are playing 4 copies of Besage in the 75. And as we talked about, the Ren and 6 plus Besage kind of lock, if that is established prior to the combo player ever being able to do anything, then that could be tough to beat. But yeah, I would say probably just linear combo is because these four color decks aren't really playing Force Negation anymore.
Yeah.
I think they were at one point, but yeah, that would probably be where I would want to be against it.
Yeah, I was told at one point, and I even considered picking up the deck because of this, that Primeval Titan was going to be a good way to approach. I mean, the Valakut Dryad, not so much Amulet Titan, but just like Titan shift with Explore or Search for Mara, whatever ramp you're doing into Primeval Titan into Valakut, blowing the crap out of them. I don't know if that's realistic or not. That was my plan before the qualifier, and then I switched and just played actual Tron instead and didn't face the deck. So I don't really know, but I do feel like, yeah, I mean, you're right. The Boseiju thing is a significant issue.
Yeah, and then
And
I know we watched Will Kruger last round, and we talked about how Will Kruger won the Mox with Titan Shift.
yeah,
The Titan Shift deck is not the best in an open field because it has some really polarized matchups. Like I think Will said, he probably can't ever beat Murktide, but the reason he played the Titan Shift deck is because he thought he was incredibly favored against four colors. So
mm-hmm.
if you could, it's one of those things where if you could hope to, if you expect to play against a lot of four color, maybe dodge some of the other bad matchups, then you might be in a good spot there too.
Yeah, yeah. And some of these decks are still evolving. I thought the Primeval Titan with I just think the card Wish is pretty neat. That is in the Primeval Titans in Pioneer, and this card is showing up in different formats. I've seen it in Legacy also. Uh, as kind of I don't even know how to describe this card. I mean, they named it for what it is. Like that was a well named card. Wish being like all the previous wishes. I just thought that was pretty neat. And if you're willing to, if you're playing red and you're willing to give up your sideboard, you can do a lot with it. I thought that was kind of a cool adjustment in at least the modern Titan Shift deck I was looking at. But all right, so we're putting it round 4 together, getting players sat down. What do you want to see this round? What's a matchup? What's a compelling matchup that you think, even if we've seen it a bunch of times, deck lists are in. So we'll go ahead and pop this up when we have a minute. Like, what's a matchup that you think is just has a lot of good play to it?
So I this might be an unpopular opinion from chat, but I kind of like to see Rhinos versus Murktide. I think that's a pretty
Okay.
interesting matchup. Looks like we got some Mardu Death Shadow. Ooh, I like this.
Okay. Ranger Captain of Eos. Yeah. Tutoring up shadows and channelers. Okay. All right. Yeah. This is, I would say this is on the fringes of the metagame. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Death Shadow specifically, you see a lot of Grixis Death Shadows, the more
Right.
popular variant. But Bardio specifically with Path, Prismatic Ending, Ranger Captain, it's been, and Boros Charm too. We got, wow, look at we had 2 Boros Charms, 2 Orzhov Charms, Akaya's Guile. Boros Charm specifically pretty powerful with Death Shadow, giving it double strike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This, I mean, Path to Exile just by itself as a card, I feel like went out of style. But here we are, Jakob Addis with Mardu Shadow. Okay, and Jacob's opponent.
Wait till you see Jacob's opponent. You're gonna like this one.
All right, hold on. Let me bring this up. I got my own if we don't have it. Chris Ward with Jeskai combo. Okay. Oh, so this is the I don't even know how to describe this deck. Jesse Robkin wrote an article about it a few months ago. Dragon Rage and Emery, and then a combo finish. Yeah, I like it.
Right.
Honorable Breach. Yeah, no, I think this deck is this is a deck that's difficult to play against, and that's something that I find very appealing.
Yeah, the Underworld Breach deck it's really good because you need to attack it in a lot of different ways. Now you might look at, Dragon's Rage Channeler plus Ragavan, think that spot removal is good against it. And yes, that is the case, but spot removal only goes so far against a deck that also has the capability of setting up Breach plus, Mox Amber Bauble plus just mill my deck and play Thassa's Oracle. So it really has this unique approach where it can put pressure on you early to force you to have a removal spell, while also, being okay with just trading one for one and just eventually setting up a combo. So it's a really, really resilient deck.
Okay, well, so this is I I gotta say I'm kind of disappointed with you that your choice of matchup that you just like to see wasn't Mardu Death Shadow versus Jeskai combo, but we'll do it. All right, so Chris is on the mulligan here. Players are shuffling up, presenting. We can go down to the table and get round 4 started.
Big
with
fan
some
of
nice
the Batman sleeves.
Yeah.
I like those.
Yeah, I have not seen that before. That's cool. I'm not one that's really into like the art. I just it's not that I hate it. I just don't even notice it really. The artwork on sleeves or fancy things like that. But that one really jumps out. It's hard to not notice that one. All right, 6 cards is going to be sufficient for Chris Ward.
See who's in the play here.
Yeah. Okay. It looks like they're waiting for us. So yeah, go ahead and tell the players they can start. We'll radio over to the table. But yeah, there's some.
So Kris in the play. No one drop.
Some odd interaction here with Jakob Addis. I mean, you're playing against a combo deck. You normally think, well, traditionally, counterspells, force negation, whatever, to break things up. That's not what we're going to see here, but there is plenty of disruption anyway.
Right, and Jakob has a lot of removal spells, and as we talked about, the removal spells are still good because you're able to break up things like Dragon's Rage Channeler, Ragavan, and even combo pieces such as Emery, something like that. You might need a removal spell for. So definitely good for Jakob here.
Yeah, Emery is kind of a scary card. I mean, it's like 1 card extra a turn when you're playing from the graveyard. It doesn't sound like that much, but it ends up being a lot.
Right, just the advantage that it really amasses can put Kris in just a commanding position.
Okay, so let's go, boys. Let's get things going here. All right. Grinding station and a Mox. Jacob's like, oh, okay then.
This is not the Steam Vents Unholy Heat deck that I was expecting to play against, but may have been more of a giveaway, honestly, with the fetch land, because you wouldn't see Murktide play a non-blue fetch land. So
that's true. All right, so now Jacob's like, okay, hold on here. There's some wackiness going on. Let's see what else is in there.
Slow it down a little bit.
It was Thassa's Oracle and Expressive Iteration. So Iteration, easy choice, and well,
we have a second land for Jakob to potentially follow up with maybe another 1 drop here.
No, we have a. In fact, is that a Godless Shrine?
Godless Shrine, yeah.
No, and it comes into play tapped, which is notable, I suppose, since it is a Death Shadow deck. And Dragon Rage Channeler off the top, so Chris Ward has got some action here.
Yeah, might not have the Shadow in hand, and I guess maybe is worried about life total. But yeah, it seems like you would want to just shock there just for the potential of drawing a Shadow down the road. So we're going after the grinding station, which means we're going to sacrifice mill ourselves, and that is relevant because of Emery. So
Mhm.
you want to make sure the station's in the graveyard in case you draw Emery, because you can just Emery it back.
Oh, it doesn't work so well if you mill over Emery, but yeah, I understand your point, and definitely Chris Ward with the right decision there. Now, was it the right decision to play the Mox when it was cast, as it didn't do anything, and then now that the Dragon Rage Channeler is drawn, that's a Surveil trigger that's just could have been had.
I guess Kris wanted to protect it from a discard spell, but it seems like it's probably less relevant that it gets discarded than having it for a Surveil trigger for the Channeler. So, yeah, you're right.
All right, Thassa's Oracle is going to come in and do its little trick for 2 mana, for 2 depth of cards. Not the game-winning number at the moment, but one card does go to the bottom. Chris Ward so has some selection for his next turn, which he could really use because he doesn't have a lot going on here.
Is that
That's a
that
Ranger Captain. I don't think it could be anything else.
True. So that can get a shadow. You can go Ranger Captain into Shadow. And Captain is really nice in this matchup too, because it will, if Kris were able to set up a combo turn, we can just sack the Ranger Captain to prevent, and maybe say in response to an Underworld Breach, we can just sack the Captain to make it so that Kris can't cast any more spells. So
Right. That is an excellent way to. Yeah, it's effectively a hard counter to Underworld Breach. You just trade them for each other. And it comes along with it, a Dragon Rage Channeler. So good deal. Okay, I mean, Chris Ward drawing decently well, despite having had no action in hand 2 turns ago.
Jakob actually decided to go for the Channeler instead, which maybe would have indicated to me that there weren't any other shock lands. And Jakob wanted to, and I believe we have Delirium. So yeah, we wanted to maybe just have the Channeler surveilling to try and find some more gas or something like that. So.
So I don't know how relevant this conceivably would be, but there is just one Thassa's Oracle in Chris's deck. So if there is the potential for Incidental Graveyard Hate in Jacob's deck at some point down the line, Kris would be unable to. That route to victory would be shut off.
Mm-hmm. Go for a Shadow. Okay, so we're going to go Shadow. We have a second Captain, so we can just sack one to make it so Kris can't play spells. But Kris can. Yep, okay, so we're going to go Ragavan, and then we have the mana from Moxhammer to make a Saga token to potentially be able to chump block. But as far as from Kris's perspective, I'm not really sure how we're kind of getting through this, especially with the second Captain to, again, prevent us from being able to do anything meaningful, even if we were to draw the Underworld Breach, which I have to imagine is probably Kris's best top deck.
All right. Well, let's see. So currently at 5. So there's Death Shadow, and yep, everything's coming across. Shadow gets chumped by Ragavan. Kris will lose half his life.
Wonder if Kris would have been better off chumping with the token rather than the Ragavan. But maybe we're trying to set up a spot where we can try to present the lethal token. Jakob is at 8, so that's at least something to consider.
Yeah, I mean that's your point is reasonable though, because Kris doesn't know there's gonna be any follow up here, and Ragavan attacking through at this point in the game might actually be more reasonable than a construct, which is actually any bigger.
Right, and it also turns on the Moxhammer, so you lose a mana here, if that matters.
Okay, Springleaf Drum found by Urza's Saga. Well, if this leads to a win for Kris, it's going to be impressive.
I mean, it all starts with that card, but
Yeah,
again,
sure.
with the Ranger Captain, I'm not seeing it with the Ranger Captain.
All right, Kris isn't seeing it either. So he is going to say, let's try game 2. And start with a sideboard, new set of 7 cards, and make some magic happen. All right, so here we are looking at our beautiful selves as we are midway through round 4 and also about midway through the day. Not quite. We are going to play 9 rounds of Swiss today and then the quarterfinals. before the semifinals and finals tomorrow. And if you're just waiting for Legacy, you probably want to show up, I don't know, around lunchtime tomorrow, and then we'll have Legacy for the rest of the day. This is Nerd Rage Gaming 10K trial today, and I want to emphasize this a few times. For the first time, the 2 finalists of this event will earn entry into the regional championship in November in Atlanta, something that Devin and I would like to join them in. And probably
Yes.
many of you at home watching. Obviously, we hope that people of all competitive levels are watching our shows here at Nerd Rage, but certainly we are, of the competitive mindset ourselves. And this is something that I don't know about you. For me, I would very much like to achieve an entry into that event.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Should we? I don't know that we need to revisit the deck list.
Sideboards, maybe?
Yeah, sure. We'll go and look at the sideboards. All right. Let's go and bring the deck list back up again.
Got a minute, so.
Yeah, we got time. All right. So we'll start with Jakob Addis and his Mardu Death's Shadow. While we're doing that, let's bring up Orzhov Charm. I feel like that's one that not everyone is going to remember what that does.
That one's a spicy one.
Yeah.
But from Jakob's perspective, now again, we talked about the breach deck being able to having the capability of fighting on a lot of different axes, right? With the creature deck, the creature base, as well as interacting with the graveyard through the combo. So Jakob is, he's going to want to keep his removal spells, but he also wants to have access to some amount of graveyard heat, and then wants to keep a balance here. But there's Orzhov Charm, as we talked about. There's a lot of text on that card.
Yeah, there definitely is. All right, so yeah, that actually was a poor choice for me because that covered up the sideboard that you were talking about. So let's go ahead and throw that out of here and get the sideboard back up there for a brief moment before we switch over to Chris's deck.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Surgical, Fracture, potentially because it hits Breach and Saga, Kaya's Guile, Alpine Moon maybe for Saga, Hearse, and yeah, I think that's about it probably.
Yeah, so you got some potential there. Probably more cards could come in than realistically can go out. And it looks like Kris is presenting. So let's go ahead and look at his deck real quick while we've got a minute. Jakob is still sideboarding or changing sleeves or something. Okay, and we have that is not the most. That's an Urza on top. So a pair of Urza on top, a couple of fairies, there's a lot of controllish cards. Spell Pierce, Prismatic Ending. I mean,
the sideboard.
Yeah.
So where do you see the Urzas? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, we could really sideboard into a Jeskai control deck's main deck almost.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know how much of the big advantage-y type stuff that Kris wants access to, because the shadow deck can present threats that are pretty low to the ground. So the Prismatic Ending is excellent. Potentially Spell Pierce to fight over the removal. You could see Tormod's Crypt, Needle, Spellbomb. Yeah, those are the cards that I'm really looking at. I'm not sure if you want to go to Teferi and Urza because of how mana efficient the shadow deck is. So
yeah, no, I'm with you on that. That all makes sense. Prismatic Ending is the clear absolute winner as far as the choices are. Spell Pierce to fight against removal makes sense. I wouldn't be wild about it just because it's not too hard to get to a point where I can just be paid for, but that is what's available here, so you maybe go with it. Anyway, players are presenting, so we can go ahead and go back down to the table now for game number 2. If Kris Ward was really bringing the A game today, we'd have some Joker sleeves here to oppose the Batman sleeves. That would be pretty cool. It's probably the flaw of Nerd Rage Gaming not having Joker sleeves available on site, or he would have swapped in. All right, Bauble as the opener for Kris Ward. Doesn't crack it yet. There is Thoughtseize in Jakob's deck, so there's no reason to have that extra card in your hand first.
Yeah, and you kind of want to get some more information on what Jakob's first turn is, because you can bubble yourself, and if it's good, keep it with the fetch, and if not, shuffle it away.
Right. And it's a Ragavan. Well, that one's easy to understand. You definitely want to find the answer to that. And okay, now fetching, still not bobbling. So this would lead to you thinking that Kris already has the answer for the Ragavan?
Or we want to keep the bobble and play for Emery.
Yeah, that would also make sense.
The only thing is Emery's kind of awkward. So if Bauble's your only artifact, you don't really want to just jam Emery because you just go land tap out for Emery, and then Jakob can just go, kill Emery, attack with Ragavan. So you're likely not going to play Emery this turn anyways. So maybe it might have been better to just sack the Bauble, get the information, and then if you have land 3, you can just play the Emery regardless.
Perhaps. I mean, it also how things were boarded, what he's got in his hand could influence the decisions. If the spell piercers you're talking about are in hand, then playing 2-mana Emery on turn 3 would actually matter. There is definitely a grinding station in hand, and there it is. And okay, there's
There
one
it
Emery.
is.
Okay,
good turn, very good turn for Kris. Because it's essentially presenting 2 threats, right? So the grinding station is a threat because if we have the Underworld Breach, that's basically just wrapped up. And then if the Emery is also a threat because if Kris or Jakob doesn't have a removal spell, then we can just get some value with the Emery with the Bauble. So. And notably, Jakob missing on lands here.
Yeah.
That's kind of rough.
All right, Dust Shadow goes away, and yeah, likely any card that was non-land would have gone away there on the Surveil. And
quick hit, Joe. What's that artifact? I can't tell what that
next
is.
to the Underworld Breach in hand.
Is it a needle? Okay.
Okay, we were saved by the new director trainee on that one because I wouldn't have identified that.
You wouldn't have known that one either.
No, that is in fact what must be the 5th alternate art of Pithing Needle, because I wouldn't have got it.
I don't think I've seen that one yet, but
all right, new director on top of things says it's the one from Midnight Haunt. I guess we'll have to actually learn his name. All right, Unholy Heat takes down the Dragon Rage Channeler, and Emery throws the Bauble back into play. And okay, Chris Ward, much more established this game than I feel like he ever got last game.
Right. Now, good news for Jakob. He was able to Thoughtseize the Breach because that would have been lethal. So definitely gets to buy another turn here. But, like I said, we have the unchecked Emery, where Jakob's really going to want a removal spell for that. And then he's also just a breach away from dying. So he's got to be, try to end the game as quickly as possible. Chat pointing out there's actually 6 different Pithing Needle arts.
I am seeing that as well. And I was just throwing out 5 as just a random number. If I would actually answer the question, I would have said there was probably like 3. So I was only off by a factor of 2. No problem. As Alpine Moon comes into play here. And maybe we can figure out what that named from the table spotter, although Urza Saga seems
Assuming
a
Saga,
possibility.
yeah. But it's weird, right? Because you bring in a card like Alpine Moon specifically for Urza Saga, and then you're facing down Emery, Shredder, Dragon's Rage Channeler, and this Alpine Moon just kind of looks like it's really not doing anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're right about that. Definitely, at the moment, it isn't doing anything. And this is kind of what I was alluding to when I said this deck is hard to play against because it's just able to present. This is a combo deck that has Dragon Rage Channeler and Ledger Shredder in play. That is confusing, complicating, and it makes sideboarding tough.
Right. So we did get a confirmation that the Alpine Moon was naming Urza Saga. But yeah, like you said, it's this breach deck is really pulling you in a lot of different directions. It's basically asking you all of the questions. We talk about question versus answer, and this deck is asking probably the most amount of questions as almost any deck that we've seen so far today. It's just attacking from so many different angles.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Jakob's at the moment of the handful of cards, so presumably able to deal with some of this that's being presented by Chris Ward, but really needs to get a lot going on here. And there's nothing in Jakob's deck that's going to kill all the creatures at once, for example. So it's going to be hard to catch up no matter how he does this.
Right. Yeah, it's Jakob's got a lot of spot removal, but spot removal only gets you so far, and you need to basically answer pretty much everything that's in play. In addition to the grinding station, that's also a threatening lethal with the potential top deck of just Underworld Breach.
Yeah, and 2 top decks a turn because this Emery is just drawing cards with this Bauble. Yeah, there's a lot going on here for Chris Ward.
Even
And
3, right? With the Shredder. Because you're essentially,
yeah,
if you have any other spell to cast, you could potentially see 3 cards a turn. So.
right. Okay, Kolaghan's Command is a good one.
Okay, well, we said it was going to be a 1-for-1, but in fact, Jakob did have a 2-for-1. Question is, okay, so I'm assuming I looked away for a second, but Grinding Station, Emery are the targets, right? Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
All right, Bauble takes a peek. Harn shuffles. Jakob has quite a few cards in hand. This may be a scenario where I would have considered just looking at my own top card and then
Right.
to fetch or not, as opposed to looking at my opponents for information.
Yeah, with the fetch and play, I'm a little surprised we didn't see that. Just kind of bobble yourself and take a peek and see if it's good, because there's some cards we're looking for here. So
I don't know. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a mistake. I'm just not. I don't know that I agree with the choice. Okay, Dragon Rage Chandler, Ledger Shredder. Here's a Bauble. Good way to start the path of getting another counter on there, and there it is.
Yes. Oh, I don't know. So discarded a Heat and Iteration 2.
Lots going on here.
Yeah, chat pointing out Endurance is very good against a lot of what's going on. It's good against Channeler, it's good against Emery, good against Breach. So yeah, that one's good. But then even Shredder's still pretty good against Endurance. So it there's not one card that beats every single plan,
Another Bauble. Wow, that was a ton of cards played this turn.
Yeah.
And Ragavan.
Interesting we played the Bauble. I wonder if he wanted to potentially hold that for next turn to try and double spell with the Shredder, but
that's reasonable. Also, just getting the card earlier is. I mean, an argument could be made both ways. I think on that one.
So Jacob's at 4. Now, what does a winning position look like for Jakob? I think it starts with at least Fatal Push in the Shredder, because that plus the Channeler is lethal. So think maybe a removal spell on Shredder, maybe a Shadow to block the Ragavan, go to 1, something along those lines. But yeah, we're probably going to need to see removal spell plus threat for Jakob here.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. And
actually, that's not good enough, right? Because the Shadow Spear on the Channeler is lethal, so that wouldn't even be good enough.
You are correct.
So I guess double removal spell, take 3 from the Ragavan and the Shadow Spear, go to 1, and hope. Yeah, okay. So it probably involves 2 removal spells.
If it was 2 1-mana removal spells, there's still enough for your Shadow to make it into play.
Yeah, that's true.
But with the amount of hesitation Jacob's showing here, I don't think we're anywhere near that.
I believe that is a Pyromancer. Yeah, okay. So 1 token. Yeah, it's not enough.
Okay. I don't know if the viewers at home are seeing issues, but my feed is definitely slowing down here. I don't know, Devin, if you're seeing the same or not. But
I think mine's pretty good for the most part.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
I got your back.
All right, excellent. All right, so here we are back. Interesting matchup. I am actually eagerly awaiting to see how this plays out in Game 3. That was certainly that game was Kris Swart's Jeskai combo deck, not comboing off, but presenting, the duality of its threats that it's kind of, takes its power from.
Right, and I think part of that game as well is, I know we had talked about during sideboarding of the Alpine Moons, and Alpine Moon is a card that is good against one specific avenue of the Jeskai deck, but the issue is, because the Jeskai deck is attacking you from so many angles, it's really hard to justify to have a specific answer like that. You maybe just want more generic answers, things like the prismatic endings and things of that nature, maybe engineered explosives. So I might look to maybe get away from those Alpine Moons if we're going to Game 3 here, but something to consider.
Okay. Well, yes, you're right. I mean, Alpine Moon, yeah, maybe not the matchup for. I mean, it's for Urza Saga in a lot of matchups, but it has splash damage in other ways, and here it doesn't. It's just for Saga. Is I think your issue with the card, and I agree with you. Now that doesn't mean that it didn't replace something that was of no value, but there were, when we looked at the sideboard, it looked like Jakob had a lot of options. So yeah, maybe something would be better suited than the Alpine Moon. We can take a glance at the game while the players are shuffling up for game 3. And see what there actually are 2 Alpine Moons.
Yeah, so like Unlicensed Hearse, Engineered Explosives, Kaya's Guile, Fracture, Surgical are maybe the Surgical is a little too narrow. Again, we don't want too many narrow answers, but like Fracture has multiple utility, Kaya's Guile, Engineered Explosives, Hearse maybe less so. But you see what I'm saying? Like those cards that really have multiple uses because of how many different angles the Jeskai deck has.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, we can see in the preview window while we're looking at the deck list here that Jakob does. I mean, after game 1, Jakob, spent a lot longer sideboarding than Kris did, and we're seeing the same thing again. So this may be, maybe he is reconsidering the Alpine Moons, like you were suggesting that he ought to, or maybe there's other choices being made here. But there's definitely significant thought going in right now.
Yeah. With Tournament Magic, I'm sure you've been in this spot before where you board in a sideboard card that you think is good, and then you draw it and still lose the game. And then once you go to game 3, you just immediately reconsider it. You're like, man, maybe this card's not that good,
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I reconsider sideboard cards. I reconsider my deck. It's like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking registering this pile of crap? It's no wonder I'm 1-3. But you still got to win the next round. You still got to win round 5, right? You got to get into the top 64. Still get paid.
Right. You got to think about how many wins do I need to get that top 64?
Exactly.
Starting in round 2.
Yeah. All right. So back down to the table for the game 3 of round number 4 between Jakob and Kris here. I mean, sure, we just watched Kris win a game, so recency bias of the last 5 minutes, Kris's deck seems obviously favored, but I do like the options it presents, the multiple avenues of attack. So if I had to sit down in one of these chairs right now, I think I would sit in Kris's seat.
Yeah, it seems like Kris's deck presents more answers than Jakob has. You know what I mean? It's just there's too many questions for Jakob to have enough answers to. Where you're just like you said, you're presenting threats from so many different angles.
Mm-hmm.
It also could be like a play draw kind of thing where Jakob's deck does have very explosive draws into play. You could think like Ragavan or DRC backed up with some discard spells and a shadow quickly. So we'll have to see how aggressive Jakob's hand lines up, because I think that's what Jakob's looking for in a matchup like this. It's just be as aggressive as possible.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we haven't seen anything remotely as threatening as an early-ish Death Shadow or anything. So here is Dragon Shadow. Okay, let's start. All right, Surveil turn 1. That's excellent.
Definitely what we're looking for from Jakob's side.
Yeah, making Kris react to Jakob instead of the other way around, it would be a key way for Jakob to gain an early advantage here.
Taking a peek.
Because there are cards in Kris's deck that are going to play much worse when you're behind, like grinding station, the combo elements. I mean, if you can't have them all together, keep them all on the board, I mean, they're not going to do much on their own. And
exactly. Yeah, it's more about, at that point, it's more about synergy. Grinding Station by itself, by and large, doesn't really accomplish that much. I guess maybe milling towards Channeler. If you have an Emery going, you could maybe set that up. But yeah, it's mostly just really just trying to just get set up for the Underworld Breach. All
right, Kroxa. Front half of Kroxa takes a Grinding Station out of Kris's hand. That doesn't seem too costly, and I don't have a good view of everything in Jakob's hand, but I thought there might have been a Dash Ragavan he was considering there instead of Kroxa, but instead Grinding Station goes to the graveyard. So that is an element of Kris's combo that is now, at least for the moment, out of here.
Yeah, you could see maybe Kris follow up with something like maybe a Bauble or an Explosives and an Emery, something along those lines to try and set that Grinding Station back up. Maybe a removal spell for the channel. Looks like he picked up a heat.
He has the Urza in hand. So
he did bring in the Urzas. Interesting.
considering playing a longer game, yeah. And in fact, does have another copy of Grinding Station.
Yeah, so not surprised if he discarded the first one. I am a little bit surprised that Urzas came in, just because Jakob does have the capability of applying some amount of pressure early, but it does also kind of make sense when Jakob is if Jakob's deck is really good at 1-for-1ing, Urza is a card that can kind of get around that stuff. It's just a threat that provides 2 bodies. It's worth it's in the long run, it's going to be worth a lot of cards. So if Kris does expect the game to go longer, then something like Urza does make a lot of sense.
Okay, Jakob. Tech 4. Looks like 1. I think it's land, artifact, creature in the graveyard. So,
yep.
And there is a Ragavan in hand. And yep, there it is. All right. So taking the slower approach for Jakob, which is okay. And there is unlucky take down the Ragavan.
Yeah, so that's probably a heads-up play for Jakob, and the reason we're not dashing is because he expects Kris to have a removal spell, and even if Jakob doesn't have something like an Orzhov Charm or interaction to mess something up on Kris's turn, just the showmanship or the bluff, I guess, if you were, of just saying, hey, I didn't play this Ragavan or I didn't dash this Ragavan, I clearly have something to cast here.
All right, Urza Saga makes a return appearance, and now let's see if Jakob can find the Alpine Moon, because now it would be quite good.
Yeah, now it's one of those things where if Jakob did sideboard it out, he's like, oh man, I really wish I didn't sideboard out these Alpine Moons. Yeah. But we'll see.
That Mox is not currently making mana, so let's see. Jakob has kind of a free-ish turn here. There's another Ragavan. Okay.
And that's a mountain.
Yeah, disappointing full reveal.
That's going to bring Kris down to 14. And there is a Death Shadow. Only a 1/1.
Hey, 1 mana, 1/1. That's fair.
Probably not going to... Oh. Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, because we get a treasure off of the Ragavan, right? Okay, gotcha. Okay, so Bauble plus Emery, and then now the Amber is turned on to activate the Saga. And if we see a Breach in Kris's hand, and Kris gets to untap with the Emery, we can set up, Emery, get back the station, play Breach, and that might be all she wrote. I don't know if I saw a Breach in Kris's hand, though. Yes, I do. Okay, I do see a Breach. Are we going for Breach? I can't imagine we have a way to kill here, right?
Well, let's see. There's
the station.
Okay, there's the station number 2. Yeah.
Second Amber would do it, but I don't think Kris has a second Amber. Oh, wait, no, you can just go... Okay, yeah, no, we do. You can go tap the Grinding Station, sack the Amber, tap the Emery, get back the Amber, tap the Amber...
The Emery is summoning stick, isn't it?
Oh, right, he just played the Emery. Okay.
Yeah. So,
I got ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Sorry about
that. Emery, for the moment, though, actually blocks Death Shadow anyway, so it's still going to do its job.
Get a little excited there. I thought we were going to set up a combo.
That's okay. I've taken my turn today doing the same thing. All right, and Jakob's like, I can't be stonewalled by a stupid Emery. There's no way.
Yeah, if we don't have a fetch land. We do have a Kaya's Guile, which can take out the graveyard. That's a pretty big one. We can go take out the graveyard, make them sack the Emery.
Okay, so Jakob choosing modes. Yep. Sack a creature and wipe the graveyard. Well, that's pretty good.
Our 1/1s can attack.
Awesome. All right, so in for 5. And this went from Kris looking great to now Kris looking, well.
Actually, I think this is still good enough. Well, we need a legendary creature. We need a way to get to Thassa's Oracle, because we can mill our entire deck right now. right? We go breach, tap the grinding station, sack the Mox Amber. Basically that loop essentially mills our entire deck. But we need a way to actually cast the Thassa Oracle. That's the issue here.
Well, we got 2 blue mana sources.
There's 2 blue.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. The only issue is there might be a spot where if Kris is forced to exile the Thassa Oracle, right?
Sure.
Because this mills 3, and then you have to pay 3 to...
Those got milled into the X. Oh, that was just a recasting. You're right. There's no... So the Bauble can sacrifice, though, to throw an extra card in. Right? Would that...
Oh, it just has the Oracle in hand. Okay.
Oh, well, okay. That works, too. Okay, so Chris Ward will win a game straight up and win a game through the combo to take down this match over Jakob Addis. So, yeah, good display of the capabilities of that deck and what's going on. Chris Ward advances to 4-0. Jakob Addis 3-1, still very much in the running. And yeah, thanks for being with us here at Nerd Rage Gaming. We are midway through round 4 of 9, and we probably have a backup match ready to go. So let's go ahead and roll the backup match for this round. I haven't been... Okay, it looks like it's Rodney, Bedell, and Joe Crooks, and it's an Amulet Titan Mirror.
Amulet Mirror. Yep.
All right. Well, this probably shouldn't take very long. So, yeah, let's get it going.
Oh, Rodney does have the sleeves. Okay, I was wondering if Rodney had the sleeves. Are you a fan of those sleeves, Joe?
How are those? We just saw Batman sleeves. How are these the sleeves? This is this is SpongeBob. I do not know much of anything about SpongeBob. In fact, saying the name SpongeBob might have exhausted my knowledge of SpongeBob, but yes, there we go. They are here, and we see Saga for both sides, Amulet for Rodney.
Yeah, I was gonna say one player has an amulet, one player doesn't. So I guess Joe technically has an amulet, but Rodney has 2 amulets. So.
Yeah, but Joe's is gonna come first.
True.
Although, yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe we'll get in a turn. These decks are explosive.
Yeah, this is... I was gonna say 2 ships passing in the night, but if we took a look at Rodney's hand, there is a Boseiju, and Boseiju is a piece of interaction because you can use it to break up a bounce land. If there's, you say bounce land, trigger on the amulet, trigger on the stack, you blow up the bounce land. They have to pick up another land; they don't get access to the bounce land. So that could be some sort of interaction for Rodney. I would imagine he's just gonna pass with the Boseiju up to utilize that on that cruel turf.
Yeah, kill a bounce line, you kill Amulet is definitely, it's a high... I mean, I just played last week with Tron versus Amulet, and yeah, Boseiju is a significant part of the interaction in the matchup. And same would apply here.
Okay, so we're going to main phase it, go after the Saga, which makes sense because you know that Joe doesn't have an amulet. It would have probably been deployed that turn. So pretty heads up play by Rodney. Doesn't want to give Joe the opportunity to, even make a Saga token because you're going to fire it off anyway. So might as well just do it on Rodney's turn.
Okay, so with Rodney potentially being up 2 amulets to 0, that seems pretty significant.
Yeah, if Rodney's got a bounce lane and a Titan, we're done here.
Yeah, and Joe Crooks here. Yeah, no matter what, he's able to present this turn in. Azusa and some lands is not a lot anyway. Not gonna be able to win the game without copies of Amulet. And here is starting things off. Tolaria West for 2 mana. So we got 1 colorless floating and 2 blue.
Can we actually Titan? So we have Grazer. So Rodney can go map plus sack map. Get bounce land. Use the castle mana to... I think he has a Grazer. I don't remember if Rodney had a Grazer or not. Oh, maybe we can Titan here. I don't know.
Okay, there's your map.
There's 2 blue floating.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is, if we use the 2 blue to sack the map, we then can't play Dryad or Azusa. So, yeah, I think Rodney is just going to pass here. Okay. Yeah, no bounce land.
Wow. Yeah, that's yeah, I'm sure that Joe Crooks was like, "Oh gosh, I'm in trouble here," and yeah, that really didn't amount to much yet.
But the thing is, even it's probably not going to matter too much unless Joe finds an amulet, because without an amulet, Titan is pretty much just putting some lands into play and passing. And with Rodney having 2 amulets, if there is a Titan, I would assume that Rodney can actually present a one-shot kill.
Right. All right. So here is Perennial Titan for Joe Crooks. Without mana untapping, this is going to be. I guess there isn't a Souza in play, so there are land drops to come.
Yeah, you can get bounce land Boseiju, pick up Boseiju. Yeah. Okay. And then if Joe has 2 land drops, we can hold. Or actually, only needs 1 because the Azusa is legendary. Okay. So we go. Yep, Boseiju, pick up Forest. Blue replay Forest. Hold up. Yep. Okay. Or not Boseiju. This Growth Chamber. Excuse me. So now, what do we Boseiju here is the question. Probably just go after the bounce land, right? We're going after the Dryad. I don't love that. That I don't love.
Okay. Well, this certainly opens the door for, okay, here's the map going. Bounce land is found. Any more shuffling of that deck would be unnecessary. Rodney Bedell taps the deck. He's like, yeah, we'll be back in here a few more times again before we actually draw any legitimate cards.
Yeah, I think if Joe, because Joe obviously knows that Rodney didn't have the bounce land last turn, because Rodney would have killed him if he had the bounce land. So I think Joe maybe should have maybe held that Boseiju for a bounce land, because if Rodney didn't draw another bounce land, then everything wouldn't have access to the bounce land. So maybe a small misstep from Joe's part.
All right, so the lower dice is keeping track of land drops for Azusa, I believe. The upper one is green or just mana floating. All right, here's Dryad. Here's Azusa. There are now 3 more land drops to the turn, I think. Pact was just played. Titan is on the way in.
Yeah, there's going to be hasty Titans with the Valakites. So we haste the Titan, attack, get 2 more Valakites. That's 18 plus the Titan, and that should be enough. Yeah, more than enough. All right. Should be all she wrote, and it is.
All right. So Rodney Bedell picks up game number 1. We don't have deck lists available, which probably doesn't hurt too much, as they're probably the same, or at least very similar to each other. In fact, I think I can scope it out right here and just see if they're there. So what's relevant? There's 2 more Boseijus in Rodney's sideboard, and only 1 more.
Like no Boseijus in Joe's sideboard.
Crooks sideboard. So, all right. So that is 1 advantage for Rodney here.
Oh, actually, there's a pretty big difference here.
Okay.
Joe has Karn, Rodney does not. So that is a pretty massive difference. Now, I'm not sure how much of an impact Karn has in a matchup like this, but that is definitely a fairly big distinction between the 2 deck lists.
No, you're absolutely right about that. Some of the extra stuff in Rodney's deck that's not to make up for the Karn slots. There's things like Hydroid Crisis, which this is not the matchup for that. No. So yeah, no. So there are some differences. All right. Well, we've established a little bit of that. Let's go ahead and look at game 2 and see if Joe was able to recover here. Now, so which player had Karn?
Joe has Karn.
Okay. And on the play this game.
Yeah, and I mean, take a look at Joe's Karn package real quick. We got a Wormcoil Engine, probably not that relevant. Ballista, Sky Sovereign, Coding is relevant because you can set up maybe the coding Karn lock. Hearse, not really. Needle, Crypt, explosives. So not a ton to love here, but just another maybe an angle of attack with Karn plus coding to potentially, if keep Rodney off of some lands. So.
All right, Amulet to start for both sides. Like we mentioned earlier, this match may not take overly long. They might be able to play 3 or 4 matches in the time that the 4-color players play a game.
Probably. Yeah, now both players have Amulet, and Joe's in the play with Amulet Dryads. So, yeah, we might be going to game 3 here pretty quickly. Although we see a Dismember. Oh, I spoke too soon. That's a really good turn for Rodney.
Beating. Boy.
Wow.
Urza Saga comes into play. And yeah, Force of Vigor is such a huge card against Amulet Titan deck. So obviously in the mirror, it's relevant for both sides. Being able to pick up Urza Saga, Amulet, and Dryad is just, you're never not going to have things to hit that are high value.
Yeah, Force of Vigor is one of the better cards against Amulet. They just have so many high impact targets, and they kind of rely on a lot of those to really be that explosive deck that they want to be.
Okay, Dryad Cavern. Cavern names Giant. And, well, you know what? We're going to... Oh, that's a Boseiju. I thought we were going Force back the other direction, but...
You see Rodney pick up both of his permanents, just expecting the Force. Yeah. Very aware of the situation.
All right. Construct is made as Urza Saga rolls up to Chapter 3. So this isn't going to be too impactful of a turn for Joe.
Yeah, you usually, whenever the Amulet player is making Construct tokens, it's usually not what they want to be doing.
First time I played against Amulet, and they had Urza Saga, the Urza Saga just got played, like, bounced 4 times and made tokens every single turn. And I was just like, how could anyone ever beat this? And that didn't turn out. That was like, the second or third rate plan for the deck.
Yeah, that's like plan Q or whatever.
Yeah.
But I will say, in the post-board games, when both players have a little bit more interaction, like Force and Dismember, it is possible that the game is more about that kind of stuff, right? If both players are trading Dismembers and Force of Vigors left and right, then it might just be a battle of, could potentially turn into a battle of sagas.
So chat is questioning how Joe missed a land drop after playing the Dryad. It is possible that he didn't want to put land into play because he wants the bounce lands to stay in his hand so we can play them multiple times in the future and just not have them solidly in play. So that doesn't necessarily answer your question, but it is at least a potential explanation of why a land drop was not made there. Okay, and there's a Karn.
Yeah, Karn's pretty good here. Definitely, when both players are pretty lower on resources, Karn is definitely where Joe wants to be. Now, I know I said Wormcoil Engine might not come up, but cards like Sky Sovereign and Wormcoil, when you're both just on make some 3/3s, those cards get a lot better. So,
I guess. All right, so construct here on Rodney's side, and a map, and so this construct is able to attack into the card. Well, I guess the expedition map gets. Well, okay, lots of things are happening.
Oh well, Rodney drew a Titan, so
yeah. So we're just gonna.
That's probably gonna be good enough.
The construct battling phase is going to never happen.
Yeah.
So let's see. Pact here. There's an attack trade. So if that attack had happened before the map, I guess it wouldn't have mattered. You couldn't have sacrificed the map. Maybe you wouldn't want to do it anyway.
Oh, did Rodney not have enough mana to play the Titan? Maybe I'm lost. Well, I'm trying to figure out what happened that turn.
Well, there's 4 untapped mana right now on Rodney's side, so perhaps you're right. But there is Titan action ongoing on Joe Crooks' side. In fact, this Titan is inbound right now.
Yeah, and if we have double strike land, that should be good enough, right? We just get Vesuva plus double strike land. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah, and I'll do
Never
it.
mind. I
Okay,
guess I miscounted Rodney's mana a little bit.
all right, so yeah, we're going to game 3. So we're going to come back here and transition into. Whoa, that's not the come back here I meant. There we go. And then we'll get game 3 going. So the Amulet Titan Mirror will continue. We got 1 game apiece for Rodney Bedell and Joe Crooks. Let's see if Rodney can take in game 3. And that one, yeah, I mean these decks can really, I mean, once they're set, they really go off. And so we thought, you know, Rodney had it that way, but mana short, so a turn is lost, and then Joe Crooks made good use of that turn.
Yeah, I see some things in chat about the there's some things that may have happened that game. Apologies, it is a time shifted match, so you know it's there's not really anything we can do about it right now. But yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and get game 3 started, and we'll see how things resolve as far as who advances to 4-0 on this fine afternoon. Well, I guess it's afternoon now. It certainly is in Chicago.
It's 3:30 where I am. So
yeah, you got the luxury. I had the early start today. All right, so once again, Amulet on both sides on turn 1.
And Rodney's in the play this time, so that means he must be advantaged, right? Right.
I mean, in theory, yeah. Well, we'll see. These decks have a habit of jumping land drops, which is the most important part of taking a turn. I think in this matchup,
right?
Here's a Dryad. Here's a Boseiju in play. So
must mean that Joe's pretty low on lands.
I would conclude that in most matchups, but here, because of the bounce lands, I don't know that it's actually significant.
True.
We'll see.
You just pick it right back up.
Yeah.
So both players having pretty much the exact same start. Or actually, no, Rodney was a turn behind, right? Because this is Joe's turn 2, Rodney's turn 3. So yeah, Rodney's actually a turn behind on the Dryad.
Yeah, these Boseijus certainly can matter. I was filling Devin in during the break about my match against Titan last weekend in the qualifier, and my opponent had Boseiju in play, and then Primeval Titan had searched up another Boseiju and went to bounce one. And I pointed out that they had to legend rule themselves first, and that actually led to my opponent being unable to pay for their pact, which was just fine with me.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely don't want to overload too much as and we see these decks are not running heavy Boseiju numbers, but there is one being cashed in by Rodney to kill Joe Crooks' Amulet, and that's well, that's what they're there for, and that's pretty strong.
Definitely a prime target. Now we'll see. I know you mentioned that Joe may have played the Boseiju out because he probably had a bounce lane in hand. We'll see if Joe decides to go, bounce lane, pick up the Boseiju, and then essentially do the exact same thing to Rodney. Just Boseiju the Amulet, and then we're kind of both sort of back to square one. But if Joe has something like maybe 2 untapped lands or a castle, he can just jam Titan right here. So we'll have to see what Joe has.
All right, Vesuva on Gruul Turf, it looked like. Reset Forest?
I think it might have been a shortcut. So Vesuva, copy Gruul Turf, pick up Forest, replay Forest.
Yeah. Okay. And
just
then
a little shortcut there.
Force of Vigor takes out most of Rodney's board.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty hard to come back, especially that it looks like Joe had drew a Titan. So, yeah, I think that's probably going to be all she wrote. With the Dryad in play already.
All right, 6 mana, Titan. Yeah, with Rodney only 3 mana in play at the moment. I'm not going to say that doesn't mean you can't win next turn, but it's asking quite a bit. Here is Valakut and Simic Growth Chamber.
Yeah, Rodney really doesn't have any outs to Titan here. So, even if maybe if Rodney had 4 mana in play, could potentially go Castle plus Titan. But even at that point, it's just there's no Dryad in play for Rodney. Joe already has Valakut plus Dryad. So it seems like I don't really believe that Rodney has any outs here.
Okay, Valakut, that was a rule turf, returned to hand, now re-enters play as
I think we're going back to the booth here.
Growth Chamber.
Remember.
Okay, so that'll just come in.
Yeah, so a little bit of a shortcut there, but basically, yeah, copy the bounce land, copy the bounce land, get a Valakut trigger, pick it up, replay, copy the Valakut. So
yeah, okay, all right. So, well, you're right. This is going to be a lot for Rodney to deal with. In fact, he looks like he's picked it up. Are we just? Yeah, so this is done. So Rodney's picked it up, and
Yep.
Joe Crooks is just goldfishing from here. All right, so Joe Crooks advances to 4-0, winning the Amulet Mirror against Rodney Bedell.